Welcome to the Accounting Profits and Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Louis Prosperi. Our guest today has written some fantastic books, and her latest title is The 15-Minute Method, The Surprisingly Simple Art of Getting It Done. She is also a very popular and well-known instructor on LinkedIn Learning who has had over 1 million participants worldwide. So please welcome to the show, Sam Bennett. Sam, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Louis. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here.
This is going to be fun because us accountants are always on time deadlines, and you are the person that gets her done, right? The thing that was really funny was when I saw some of your book titles, Getting It Done, remind me of the Larry the Cable Guy.
That's right. Get her done.
Get her done, right? So, well, I don't know if that's where you got your inspiration from, but that put a smile on my face. So I was quite happy with it.
It's somewhere in between David Allen and Larry the Cable Guy. I think it's a very...
Is that right? Is that good?
That's okay. Kind of the lane where I live. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I'm so glad because if you can't laugh, what's the point, right? You know what I mean?
For real.
Right. So let's start off with, why did you pick this lane? Because you've been at it, I think if I looked at in the past, like 1993 or 96, you've been doing this. Is that correct?
It depends on when you start counting, but yeah. So my background's in theater. I started out as an actor, and I was one of those kids who did all the plays in school and did plays in the living room and went to theater camp, and I had one of those acting careers that went well enough, that you didn't want to give up on it. I was at the Second City Theater in Chicago for a long time. So I'm friends with some of the greatest comedic minds of our generation. And then I moved out to LA and did, a fair amount of work in television and theater and radio and voiceover. And it was a ton of fun, financially disastrous, creatively very fulfilling. Along the way, I got very interested in this question of how do highly creative people make decisions? Right. How do overthinkers make decisions? How do people who are good at a lot of things make decisions? Because there's no right way. Right? There's no right way to be an actor. There's no right way to be an accountant. There's no right way to be a parent or a friend, right? There's just your way. So I started teaching a class called Get It Done in a church basement in Van Nuys, California, to like 11 people. And that was in 2000. So
2000. Okay.
Yeah. So almost 25 years ago. And it was just one of a lot of things I was doing. I was still auditioning and had a bunch of different jobs and gigs and projects and shows and all the things. It was fun for me and fun for the people I was working with. And then that was the first book, was Get It Done, From Procrastination to Creative Genius in 15 Minutes a Day.
Actually, I started reading that one this morning. So to be quite honest, and I kind of like the title that caught me was the procrastinating part of it, because I'm an expert on that side of the fence, right? When you called me a genius at the same time, I felt very good. Okay, so procrastinators are geniuses. That's fantastic. Explain that a little bit more, because I don't think that's what you really meant. If you could explain that a little bit more, that would be great.
Well, I think there is a certain genius to procrastination. I mean, first of all, this is something everybody says about themselves. Everybody says, oh, I'm such a procrastinator. Oh, I never get anything done till the last minute. I'm here to tell you, nobody gets anything done till the last minute. That's how we know when things are supposed to happen, because it is the last minute. Now, when the last minute is for you is going to be different than for me. My sister's one of those people who does all her Christmas shopping in August. For her, August is the last minute. Like that's her deadline. And deadlines have genius and magic and beauty to them, right? A deadline sort of lets your brain know, oh, let's move from sort of noodling about this into actually really thinking about it and really taking some steps. So I hear, all the time people are like, oh, I've got this big presentation due tomorrow and I haven't even started. No, that's not really true. You've started. You've been
noodling it. Yeah.
It's been on the rock tumbler for a while in there.
That's true.
But the fact that it's due tomorrow is what actually makes you sit down and put your hands on the keyboard. And by the time you sit down, you probably more or less know what you're, going to do. And there are a whole school of us, a whole type of person, and I am one of them, who do not benefit from doing things way in advance. Like if I do something way in advance, I'll forget that I've done it and do it over again at the last minute anyway. So I might
That's
as
an
well just do
interesting concept. That's a great way for a procrastinator to still be a procrastinator by saying, I'll forget it at the end. So I'll just do it at the last minute. That's great. I love that because I'm going to be using that as my excuse from now on. So that's great.
Well, and this is, but you bring up an important point, which is, are you procrastinating on things that matter to you?
Right.
Are you procrastinating on things that matter to your finances, to your family, to your community? Are you really not moving forward on things that are important to you? Or
Okay.
do you just have a rhythm of work that you're using, rushing to help get you to completion?
I don't have if we're analyzing me, I don't have an answer right now for you.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure which way to go. But what I did like about your book, because you did also actually indicate that indecision is probably more when you have conflicting goals is probably the biggest issue, where it's easier if you just had the one project that's due whenever.
Yeah.
But in today's world, we don't have the one. We have the 10 or the 20.
That's right.
And I think that's where the get her done, it's deer in headlights. Does that make sense to you?
Absolutely.
Scenario, because it's just overwhelming. And I think your book deals with how to make it so that you can get yourself out of the deer in headlights situation. Can you just expand on that a little bit?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're right. We all have a million things that need doing. We're all busy all day, every day. And especially people who are highly creative, overthinkers, like I said, good at a lot of things. We especially have a lot of things that we're juggling. And what I want to say is, I hear this word overwhelm a lot. Right? I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so overwhelmed.
Right.
I'm so overwhelmed. I got so many plates spinning. I'm so overwhelmed. And what I want to say is, you know what? That is not the world doing that to you. The world that is not an outside problem. Overwhelm is an inside problem, right? You overwhelm yourself. And we can tell this because we look at people who have jobs in which they are perpetually overwhelmed. People who work in emergency rooms, people who are first responders, people who work in crisis centers. They are in overwhelming situations all the time. And yet they themselves are not overwhelmed, right? They're very calm. They're doing their job. They're putting one foot in front of the other. They're taking care of things because it's their job. So here's what I want, though. This is my dream, Louis. This is my dream. Help me. I want 1 million people, at least 1 million people worldwide, spending 15 minutes a day on something that matters to them.
Right.
Because like I said, we get all the things done for everybody else. And that thing that, like I said, would really make a difference to you, to your health, to your body, to your finances, to your world, to your family, to your creativity, that stuff somehow doesn't even make it on the list, right? You've got these projects that are really close to your heart, but they're stuck in a drawer somewhere. So I want you to start spending 15 minutes a day, every single day, on something that matters to you.
So let's actually talk about that a little more detailed, because the question is, what are them? Like, how do we figure out what those things are? Because you're right. In our daily lives, we are overwhelmed or internally overwhelmed with things that we have to get done.
Yeah.
But there's things that we have to get done for work. There's things that we have to get done for so-and-so. So I get that. But what you're saying is spend 15 minutes a day on what's important to you. Yeah. And the problem is, well, how do we figure that out? Right? Because I think that's, look, after a while, you might have known it 10 years ago, but you forget it, right? Or you don't remember what that was. How do you get that back? Like, how do you dust it out and bring it out to the forefront? What can we do?
Part of it is just really engaging your own curiosity. And saying like, well, if I did know, if I could spend 15 minutes, like, what might I like to try? And it's one thing I encourage people to do if they had that sense of confusion. It's like, well, make a list of a bunch of different things you'd like to experiment with and see how it goes. And the beautiful thing about 15 minutes a day is that it hopscotches right over your perfectionism. How perfect is it going to be? It's 15 minutes and you're going to do it again tomorrow. So you have this thought of like, well, I sort of have always had this idea about writing a screenplay. I think I might like to do that. Great. Spend 15 minutes a day on it for a week or two. See how it goes. You may get 6 pages in and go, I hate this.
When you said screenplay, the image of an accountant trying to do a screenplay, I just haven't seen that many accountants writing books. So
oh, you're not hanging out in the right crowd.
I guess I'm not. No, they do write very good books when it comes to like our business models, accounting models, all sorts of stuff that relate to accounting. But screenplay, that's why it made me giggle, because that'd be an interesting one. I'd love to see an accountant do a screenplay. That would be.
And maybe it's not a screenplay. Maybe it's tying flies or making jewelry or sitting in the garden with the sun on your face for 15 minutes or a prayer and meditation practice or playing guitar or writing a letter to your children, or I don't know, anything that moves you, that lights you up inside, that reminds you of who you are on the inside, that person you've always been, that little kid that you were, reconnecting with that spontaneous creative energy where there's no consequences. You're not getting graded on this. No one cares. No one's paying any attention. You can draw and paint and make as big a mess as you want and then put it away because it's 15 minutes and you'll be done. And then here's what happens. Here's why I love this. Is there's this beautiful sort of spillover effect, right? When you take that 15 minutes, all of a sudden the rest of your day, you've sort of got this little smile on your face. You've got this little sense of like, hey, I did that thing. It's like when you get up and go into the gym really early and, you spend all day being like, people are like, how are you? I'm like, I'm awesome. I've been to the gym. How are you?
I can see that happening. Yeah, that makes sense.
I can hear, because I know this, I know people, there are some of you out there thinking like, well, Sam, that's selfish. I couldn't take that time for myself. That's selfish. My kids need me. My job needs me. People need me. And I want to say, no, they don't. No, they don't. Not for 15 minutes, they don't. Not for 15 minutes, they don't. They can deal with themselves for 15 minutes. And here's what's actually selfish, is you walking around exhausted, stressed out, with no sense of humor, not attending to any of your spiritual or emotional needs at all, and the rest of us have to deal with you like that. That's selfish. Yeah. You take 15 minutes to nourish yourself, to, pay attention to your houseplants or declutter a drawer or whatever. And now you're calmer, you're less reactive. There's a light in your eyes. You're a better listener. Like, we love this version of you. Please bring this version of you. And there is studies that I've seen where actually, even if you like, you're at a meeting at work, and let's say it's in a meeting of the accounting team, and if people say, oh, hi, I'm Sam from the third floor or whatever, okay, you're going to have one kind of a meeting. But if you ask people to introduce themselves and add in something else about themselves, almost anything, really. Hi, my name is Sam. My grandmother came here from Sweden when she was 18. Okay. Hi, my name is Sam, and I love to sail boats. Hi, my name is Sam, and I do needlepoint. You will have a better meeting. People will have better ideas. They'll be more vocal. They'll be more insightful. They'll listen better.
Interesting. And why is that?
I think partly because we get to remind each other that we're human. Right. And now all of a sudden, I'm not just Sam from the third floor. It's like, oh, she does needlepoint. I do cross stitch. Oh, we should talk. You're like, oh, now we've got something to sort of connect on. Right. But also, I've reminded myself of my own multiplicity of talents and skills. And so now I'm not just bringing my accounting mind to the table. I'm bringing my whole self to the table. And I might think of some other way to solve a problem because I'm not just locked into this one mode of thinking.
So Sam, just like anything else, right? The 15-minute method or 15 minutes a day or whatever you want to call it, right? You have to train and get yourself. There has to be a system to get you there so you can do it. Because the key thing here, what you're saying, is not doing it once a month. It's consistent. The benefit is once you do it and you got a routine in place. So what things can we put into our toolkit to get us to that routine? Is there any way to do it in a systematic way? I know, buy your book. I get it. But outside of
for sure, buy the book.
Yeah. You have to have that as a reference point. But I'm just saying, if there's anything we could do as well to get to that point.
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of doing it in the morning.
Right.
first thing. And I actually spend my 15 minutes on a little sort of prayer and meditation practice that I kind of made up for myself. And I do it before I'm even off the mattress, like before I've even.
Oh, that's very, so you're still in bed when you're doing your 15 minutes. Interesting.
I'm still in bed when I'm doing my 15 minutes. Wow. And I'm not even entirely awake sometimes, which is also sort of beautiful to like be creating and in this sort of semi, my inner editor isn't fully online yet. So I'm sort of in this more dreamlike space.
Very interesting.
So, and I'm a fan of doing it early in the day, no matter when you do it, just because we all know, like the later in the day it goes, the more the day just gets away from you. And, it's harder and harder to find the time. I love habit stacking. I love it when, people are like, oh, I have to take the dog out every morning anyway. I know I'll spend that 15-minute walk listening to, the collected works of Mark Twain, because I never really did that, or, whatever, or singing or practicing my vocalizing, or I'll be the singer in the neighborhood walking her dog. So if you can tie it, sure, why not? People do it all the time. So if there's things you can tie together, that's always great. If you can get a buddy, that's always great. Check in with each other on text. You in. I actually sell a product. I have a thing on my website. You'll see it called the Daily Practicum. And for 15 minutes a day, every single weekday, we hop on the Zoom at 12 noon Eastern, 9 Pacific. Say hi. I set the timer for 15 minutes. Everybody puts their heads down. 15 minutes later, timer goes off. And people look up with this like post-orgasmic glow on their face. Like, I did it. I made that phone call I've been putting off for 6 weeks. I did it. I cleared this much paper from the pile. I did it. I wrote poetry. I doodled. I played with my dog.
So everybody did their own thing for that 15 minutes. It was like interesting. That I'm surprised. Wow.
It works incredibly well. And you can look it up. There's a thing, some people call it body doubling or parallel play. But for us animals, we're tribal animals. Right. We'd like to be in groups doing things. And there's something about having it on the schedule, showing up, knowing that other people are going to be there, this sort of community, that other people are there working. And it just helps you push over that. There's always that moment of like, yeah, I'm going to spend my 15 minutes. Oh, maybe I should just check my email first.
Yes.
And then it's gone, right? Yeah. And we say, nope, this is the 15 minutes and I'm doing it and everybody else in the room is doing it. And that's what we're doing. But I would love to see like businesses institute this, every morning from 8 to 8:15 is your 15 minutes. And then we'll start at it. I don't know. I have dreams.
Actually, I was thinking about when you're saying that the accountability issue is probably big, right? Because I do a lot of mentoring and I help a lot of CPA firms build their practices, and because I'm involved and they're paying me and they have to meet with me, things get done. If all of a sudden you take me out of the picture. Yeah, and I have been removed from the picture because I think they're good to go and on their own, and then I do follow-ups 5 or 6 months later, and I feel like they went backwards, right? So I think you're right. The thing that I took out of this: put it on your schedule. If you're a calendar person, if it's not on the calendar, you don't do it. Put it on your calendar, right? If you're a group person, if you're more effective where you have to be with a bunch of people, like my wife. Her most effective way of exercising is finding a buddy, right?
Absolutely.
As soon as the buddy leaves, her exercise routine disappears, right?
That's exactly right.
So she's always finding a buddy. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? So I love that. So the thing is, what makes you do it, right? What's the thing that if you analyze your behavior and when you look at when you get stuff done, what's the connector? Does that make sense?
Can you give yourself? Are you motivated by treats? If you gave yourself a little, a chance to have that special cup of tea that you don't usually let yourself have or something, what motivates you? Positive peer pressure is huge. And I gotta say, I think you're missing an important revenue stream. I think you got to have a maintenance membership model of like, okay, we're done with serious work. And now we're going to have a thing where you're going to check in with me every week. And it's, however much a month.
I'll have to figure that out.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the follow up.
Good.
Yeah. No, but like I said, I do know that in my studies and the things that I work with, and you've probably done this too, because you've mentored a lot of people, is you being part of the process changes their entire outlook compared to you not being there, right?
Absolutely. And also when people invest, it's not just a question of the time. When they invest some money, all of a sudden it rises up in the priority level.
Yeah. And I've learned that too. I try to charge higher than lower.
Yes.
Because I say it's for their benefit, actually. It's not for mine.
Absolutely.
Well, it is mine a little bit, but it's really for theirs, because if I charge them $5 and $5 means nothing, they're never going to show up. If I charge them an amount that's of value to them, then it works both ways, right? So that's fantastic. So what other things that you think that accountants can use with regards to their daily lives? Because we're talking now about their core stuff, but how to get the stuff on their plate that comes up. Because one of the things that we have for accounting firms or professionals in general, it's not just the stuff that we planned for.
Yeah.
Our customer base is constantly coming up with stuff, emails, interference. And how do you deal with that so that you can get things done in an effective way? How do you deal with I guess the best way to say it, the noise?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with having really strong systems and processes in place. I have a policy that I will return an email within 24 business hours. So if you email me Friday afternoon, you may not hear from me until Monday afternoon. If you text me after 5, and I often don't respond to texts right away either. Just because it's urgent to you does not mean it's urgent to me. I love using my calendar link. People are like, oh, hey, I just have a quick question. I'm like, great, here's my calendar link. They can book a 20-minute time with me. And then we all know when this is. Again, it goes on my calendar. I know to expect it. They know when it's happening. And I can be there, clear and focused, and not just pulled off giving some off-the-cuff answer because it was urgent to them right in that moment, right?
So discipline so you're basically saying discipline, right? Set up a routine, stick to it. As soon as you lose it.
Yeah, a routine, but also just boundaries.
Yeah.
Just being clear of like, nope, I don't respond, over the holidays. I don't, I don't work after 5. I don't work on the weekends. I don't, if you want me to look at something, you have to give it to me 48 hours before the meeting. Like all of this stuff, you train people how to teach you, right? And we all know, I was one person with the rest of the world and another person with my grandmother because her expectations of who I would be and what her boundaries were very clear.
Fair enough.
We all have that person in our lives, that teacher, that person that we were like, oh, I did not mess around when it came to that person. Right. So you be that person for others.
Right.
It's not about being snotty or being unavailable. It's just being really clear about here's what's possible. Here's what I can do for you. Here's what I will not do for you. The other thing I think, I've met this is sort of funny, but I've met so many fun accountants in my life. I actually have spoken to a couple of accountant conferences, and they're almost always like, as the talk moves on, as their workshop moves on, like they start to confide kind of to the group, like, is it okay if I do stand-up comedy? Like, I don't know. I'm a kind of an abstract painter. I like to dance. I like to boogie. I'm kind of a Doctor Who fan. Like, their sort of, weird selves start to come out. And I'm like, use all this in your marketing. Use all this in your communications with other people. Let people see the truth of who you are. And not only will you be more turned on because you get to show up as your full self. You don't have to feel all like, oh yeah, I'm the buttoned up boring person. You're like, no, I'm fun. I'm weird.
And here I am buttoned up. I'm already buttoned up. I'm buttoned up right up to the next. So I have to let loose. I have to let loose is what you're saying, I guess.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, one of my favorite people to work with, in our very first meeting, he said, look, I am a belt and suspenders kind of guy. I'm going to double check everything just to say I did it. And I was like, okay, good to know. He wasn't promising fun. He was the most unfun, unromantic person I've ever met in my life, but he was a rock star.
Yeah.
So I think the point is not communicating anything that you're uncomfortable communicating. The
Right.
point is, show up as your full self.
Yeah. Yeah. That is, that's actually pretty good. And I think, us accountants would like to, most of us do, to be quite honest, but at the end of the day, there's that image. If you look at the stereotype for us accountants, right? So, and unfortunately, we have to have some of that. We call that professional, but I get what you're saying. I mean, the more human, the more relatable you are. People are talking to other people, right? You have to be personable, and I think that's really important. So I really like that.
It's exhausting. When I was, working as an actor, and I always had day gigs, and I had a lot of really terrific day gigs,
right.
But I always felt like I was leaving 50% of myself in the car.
Right.
Like they didn't care who I was as a person. I was a functionary. I was there to do a job, which is fine. I mean, that's not like we all got to sit around and hold hands all day long, but
sure.
I did want more freedom to share who I was with people.
So you actually said something about the sharing. Put it in your marketing. That's something I've not heard of. So how does that work what do you mean by putting it into your marketing? Like, can you give me some examples? Like, what does that mean?
Sure. So if we're looking for clients, we're looking for ideal clients, right?
Right.
Only ideal. We only work with ideal clients.
Well, we try. Yes.
No, really. No, again, make it a policy. Only work with ideal clients.
You're preaching to the choir here. I'm just saying,
right?
I know exactly what you're saying.
Those clients who are not a good fit are going to cost you time, cost you money, wear you out, and make you want to scream and run. So if they're not a perfect fit, you say no, right? And when I say ideal client, I mean they need you.
Right.
They know they need you. You may know they need you, but they have to know they need you, right?
Yeah.
So they're coming to you with a problem that they need solved. They share some of your values. They don't need to share all of your values, but they need to share some. And for me, that always means like, they'll laugh at my jokes. I will work with people who laugh at my jokes. If you don't laugh at my jokes, we're not going to be a good fit. It's kind of an ego thing for me.
I like that.
But laughter it reflects a shared worldview, right?
Yeah.
So they share some of your values, and they can pay you. It might be a stretch, but they can pay you. If they do not meet these 4 criteria, they are not an ideal client, and you send them on their merry way.
Right.
Let them find somebody else to torture. But when you've got, I just want to go back to this values thing. When you've got someone who shares your values, first of all, communication is so much easier, right? You feel like, oh, they get me.
Yeah.
And when you don't share values, maybe it's easier to demonstrate the opposite. It's like, have you ever been in a relationship with someone and like, it's just not quite like, and they give you a present and you're like, why would you give me this? And then they're like, well, I thought you would like it. What do you mean? And then you give them something and they're like, I don't care about and you just miss each other and everybody ends up frustrated and not feeling good. As opposed to when you're in the relationship with the right person and they get you the tiniest little thing and you're like, oh, this is so perfect. This is just what I wanted. How did you know? I feel so seen and loved, right? It's not about expense. It's not about effort. It's about the rightness. It's about the values, right? So really look for that values match. And the other great thing about working with people who share your values is that when you screw up, which you will, as a business owner, you will 100%.
No, it's true. You're absolutely right. No one's perfect. Yeah.
No, and systems go down, things get crazy, stuff happens. I mean, it's inevitable. It's not a commentary on you. It's just absolutely going to happen.
Yeah.
When you are working with people who share your value system, you can turn around to those people and say, I am so sorry. Here's what happened. Here's how I'm fixing it. Thank you for your understanding. And they'll say, I get it.
Yeah.
They're not going to nitpick with you. They're not going to pitch a fit. They get it because they share your values. They understand. So, but also just lean into it as a market, to be the vegan accountant, to be the, the belt and suspenders accountant, be the punk rock accountant. Like, that's a great vibe.
No, I agree. And you're absolutely right. The ideal customer is important. There is a connection with an accountant and their customers because there is a trust factor. The level of expertise and knowledge, usually they don't have it. So they're relying on you a lot. So if they don't connect with you beyond transactional, it is a tougher relationship. And you're absolutely right. I do agree with you 100%. Well, this has been fantastic, Sam. I love the 15-minute method. It's not out yet for me. I can't read your latest book, but I did read your Get Her Done book earlier, the Procrastinator one, which made me a genius. So, just like you, people make me feel like a genius. I definitely like them automatically as well. So,
see, there you go. This is an important element of your shared value system. Right. And then there's the second. You'll like the second one too. It's called Start Right Where You Are: How Little Changes Can Make a Big Difference for Overwhelmed Procrastinators, Frustrated Overachievers, and Recovering Perfectionists.
Well, there we go, man. That's a big title, by the way. Right. I don't know if I can remember the whole title. If we have to do this again, I'll just say her next book and just maybe put it on behind it. It's a fantastic book. That's a long title, my dear. That's
a long title. But the new one's much shorter. The new one is called The 15-Minute Method: The Surprisingly Simple Art of Getting It Done.
Yeah,
and it's available at all the places and all the bookstores and online. And there's an audio version if you like Audible. Kindle if you prefer that. And it should be landing June 18th, pretty much everywhere.
Fantastic. So other than the book, where can we get a hold of you, or if someone wants to ask you questions or connect or listen to some of your fantastic jokes, where would they go?
I'm never going to live this down. Yes, you can find me at therealsambennett.com, therealsambennett.com. And I'm The Real Sam Bennett on all the socials, so you can find me there too.
Fantastic. Thank you again, Sam.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Sam, once again, thank you for joining us today. And to you, our valued viewers, thank you for tuning into this episode. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to our channel. And as always, we welcome your feedback and comments below. Until next time, stay hydrated, always be curious, and above all, be well.